a new show, Goodbye BTN, encryption fights, politics, and DuckDuckGo. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Macstock Connference and Ecamm Creator Camp on July 9th through the 12th in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Join me, members of the MacVoices live panel, and many of our viewers and listeners for a weekend of technology-based information and camaraderie. Sign up at MacstockConference.com and use the code MacVoices to save $50 off your ticket. See you there. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is MacVoices Live. It's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. You could be joining us at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV if you haven't already. That's this week and pretty much every Tuesday night. This is where we are. That's when we are, and you could be here with us. We have a bunch of announcements to make tonight. We have a whole lot of articles that I know we're not going to get through. I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to do the useless speculation and rumor mongering about WWDC, because by the time most of this show goes out, it will already be WWDC and you'll know. So if you really like all the rumors and all the clickbait, it is out there. My RSS feed ran over 600 today, and I only found 4 articles worth talking about. Wow. So, it's kind of sad. So let's do the announcements first. The first thing I want to announce is that Marty and Jeff and I just premiered today a new series on MacVoices called Foreshadowing Tech. What we're doing is we're looking at how science fiction in media has affected, influenced the real world tech that we have today, and maybe how real world tech has influenced science fiction. So we're going to do this on a sort of a regularly irregular basis. This time we started out with a double feature of 2001, A Space Odyssey, and 2010, the year we made contact. And we did that because there's a bit of continuity between the two, and it felt like you really couldn't discuss one without discussing the other and have it make sense. So give it a try. If you are subscribed to the MacVoices feeds, it's already sitting there waiting for you. If not, you can go to macvoices.com/foreshadowing-tech, all one word, and it'll take you right to the category and let you watch or listen to our first show. So have a little fun with it.
Hey, Chuck.
Jeff.
Barry in the live chat.
Yes.
He just finished listening to the pilot episode and said it was super fun. So thank you, Barry.
Hey, thank you, Barry. Thank you for taking the time and giving it a try. It was a lot of fun. We had a great time doing it. I can tell you that. So that's the first announcement. Second announcement is, I apologize for this, but next week's MacVoices Live is kind of on the bubble. It's on the bubble because I will be traveling back from San Francisco, and I don't know exactly what time my flight will get back, or I'll be able to get back from the airport, because my flight's already been rescheduled twice. Thank you very much, airlines. So I will try to keep you informed. Check the MacVoices blog for updates on that, or I'll try to post something in the social media feeds once I have it a bit more locked down. But I apologize for it, especially of all times, the day after DubDub. We definitely want to talk about it. We'll just have to work around it as we can. But just so you know. The third thing is an announcement that I'm not going to make. I'm going to let Jeff talk about it because he has a much deeper involvement than I do. Jeff, take it away.
All right. So a lot of you are familiar with the British Tech Network. A lot of us are on the Mac Show on Friday mornings there, and I've been hosting the Mac Show and the Big Show there for several years after Ewan Rankin had to step back from doing that. After 18 years, it's time for British Tech Network to wrap it up and call it a day. So we are hosting the final episode recording for the British Tech Network shows this Friday morning as we record. So 9 a.m. Mountain Time. I'll let all of you figure out the math for where you live because I will screw it up. But it's been a great ride, and we've had a lot of fun. And I love that so many people that are part of this podcast group have ended up migrating over and helping out on the British Tech Network. So, yeah, it's on one hand, it's sad to see it go, but it's been a really great ride for everyone over the past 18 years. And Ewan Rankin did an amazing job of breathing life into the British Tech Network, and we have done our best to carry on in his stead. And don't worry, Ewan's not dead or anything. It's just his priorities and commitments had to change, and so that's when I started hosting, and Patrice Brindamore took over a lot of the other management responsibilities. But it's time to wrap it up. So this Friday, final episode, and if you're around, show up live, and if not, well, the recording will be out later. So thank you for everyone that's been part of that.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. It has been a great run for BTN. I was very pleased to be invited to be part of it many years ago. And it's one of those things that just has been setting up the weekends so well. So,
it has been so much fun.
Yeah.
And Chuck, Dave, Marty, the three of you have become pillars of happiness for my Friday mornings. And I appreciate all of you.
I thank you, Jeff, for inviting me to the British Tech Network, because I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I kind of knew about it, but I never really followed it for all those years prior to that. But Chuck and I were trying to figure out the years. I think it's going to be at least 6 or 7 years. I think I was on the Mac show, and I'm very proud of what we accomplished.
It's been a while.
It's been quite a while, and thank you for inviting me. And I've been absolute blast. Got to meet Doc Rock for the first time before he left, and involved. And Patrice, we should give a shout out to Patrice Brindamore too. She's been absolutely amazing support of the show.
Absolutely.
And shows of the whole network. She's got things taken care of to keep us up at least online for at least another week or two, so we can do our final show and put it up on there to everybody to see. So, but no, I want to make sure I put my words in as well for this. Thanks.
Yeah, it's only been about a year and a half for me, but I feel like there's going to be a big void, because it kicked off my Fridays in such a nice way, and a different style of show than any of the other shows, and much more kind of, I don't want to say that the other shows are not friendly, but this was more kind of friends in terms of engaging in conversation and limiting it around a couple of topics, which was kind of fun to think of it as not like getting through as much as we can. So there's a void there. I don't know. There's a void there. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep, I get it.
Agreed with all the sentiments. Absolutely.
So we might carry on some of the traditions that we have. I'm thinking about it for my show, and maybe someone else's will.
Okay.
Will as well. So
well, I mean,
that's a teaser.
The idea that Ewan had was, as he put it, the shows are like a bunch of blokes sitting around the pub, talking crap about technology, and so that was.
Whoa. There was drinking involved?
Many times there was. Okay, so for the big show,
it's a free for all.
Okay, so this is all done on UK time. So the big show was late enough in the day that drinking could be involved, and the way this used to work was they'd record the big show, and then the people that were in the UK in the same place, they would go out to dinner to like typically some amazing Indian restaurant, have a few beers, come back and do the Mac show.
Wow.
And then eventually we changed it so the big show was on Thursdays, the Mac show was on Fridays, so that it was just easier on everyone's schedule. So there wasn't as much drinking involved at that point.
Yeah.
So we say.
And yeah, I mean the Americans participating in the Mac show, because it was relatively early in the morning for us, no. Sometimes the folks that were on the other side of the pond, I'm not so sure.
No, it's safe to say that that there was definitely a detectable blood alcohol level on the UK side of the pond.
Yes.
On a regular basis.
I think we better stop there before we get into trouble.
Yes.
Oh man.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
And thanks to all of you for being part of it.
Well, and thanks to Ewan for inviting all of us to have us in there. I almost felt like we have to mention, Jeff helped me out here, but I think Andy Anako was a panelist at one time.
Yeah.
The late Chuck Watornos was a panelist for a while. Doc Rock was a panelist for a while.
Mm-hmm. Kelly Gumont was on the show for a while.
Don McAllister.
Don McAllister. Don back in the day when had to use Skype for everything.
I remember being on Skype.
He donated a bunch of Mac Minis to British Tech Network. So there was actually, it was called the Skype wall, and it was just stacks of Mac Minis because you had to have a different Skype number for each person calling in, and then you had to hook it all together. Oh man.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah. When you look at what we do now with so much ease and what Ewan, the effort he put in to create what now we're doing, but with stone knives and bearskins. I mean, just, it was amazing. It was genuinely amazing.
Yep.
All right. So Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern, do the math.
A.M.
A.M. Sorry. Yes. Oh, God. Yes. 11 a.m. Eastern. Do the math and join us if you can.
Yes.
And before I start down the show notes, I want to make sure that you know that you can access our show notes at macvoices.com/show notes. That's where they are. They'll probably be reordered a little bit as we go through. And some we skip, some we don't. But I want to make sure that you know that you can get those. And of course, if you're listening after the fact, they're right there in the show notes of that episode for you. So the first one, I'm kind of baffled. Apple and Google are opposing a Canadian bill that says would require them to break encryption on their devices. Canadians? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of gotten used to it with the UK and the EU and some of their craziness. But Canada?
Well, governments don't like people to exercise power outside of the governmental authority. They want all that power to themselves, whatever government is. That's just a government thing.
But politely.
I guess it's just when I had this one hit me right out of the blue. I had no idea this was going on. So, for what it's worth, just to be aware that not all the crazies live across the pond. We love you across the pond.
Do you think this is a pushback from a political standpoint because of our current relationships with Canada? That Canada's starting to exercise some of its own muscle?
Marty, that never occurred to me.
I think it's more just who is in office in Canada, and I'm not surprised by this. This is what governments do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good things that governments do. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Do you hear my Jim Rea voice right now? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll watch it and see what happens. See if they have any more success than some of the others have had. Let's hope not. This one I wanted to call out again because this particular article, the Maryland governor calls out Apple over Towson Center store closure. Now, we've talked about this before. There were other articles floating around the last few days that 40 members of Congress also have written to Tim Cook and John Turnus protesting this. I called out the Maryland governor because I live in Pennsylvania, right across the border from Maryland. the Maryland governor needs to back down because his administration is not exactly setting the world on fire, even though they would have you believe he is. And for evidence, I would cite the fact that Maryland's credit rating dropped for the first time under Governor Westmore. So, Governor, back off. Just back off.
It just seems ridiculous because this is a mall that has had several anchor stores just leave. So the fact that Apple is going, okay, well, we only really want to be in premier areas, and they're closing their store at the Towson Center I don't think is a surprise at all. Figure out why the Towson Center is doing so badly, and actually you should have done that before, and then maybe Apple wouldn't have left. Maybe those other anchor stores wouldn't have left.
Guy, and the other thing I'll throw out is that this was the first Apple unionized store. Okay, so as a union store, they got certain concessions, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you take the deals that you cut because you cut them with the union and you got better deals in some ways. Now the store is closing. Now you want to be treated just like everybody else. So you want to end up with a net positive, and I just have a little problem with that. So and by the way, if your union leadership did not negotiate something that takes this into consideration the way that Apple does with its quote normal employees, then that's on them.
Yeah. And
I'm sure that I'll get email about that. And, we don't mean to be controversial, but it seems like now all of a sudden the union is looking to the governor and they're looking to Congress and all these things because Apple is such a high profile company that they think, kicking and screaming is going to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Other than some stores, I don't think Apple has much going on in Maryland. So what kind of leverage they think they may have is debatable.
That's a good point, Guy, because I was thinking about the Virginia stores, but they're in Virginia, so
yeah. And Apple has a big government center in I want to say Reston. I think it's in Reston. It's out near the Dulles International Airport. So, in a case where a Virginia store was closing, unionized or not, then, okay, Virginia would have a little bit of leverage because they can put some pressure on, some of the other presence that Apple has outside of retail. But if it's just retail and the retail store isn't doing well or the mall itself isn't doing well, then I don't think this has anything to do with the fact that it's a union store. I think it's just the Towson Center is not doing well.
It's purely the mall.
Yeah.
Well, that's obviously Apple's position. But, these statements from politicians, aren't they just that? I mean, I don't know that, I don't, and I don't see a link for this story in the show notes. But
it's farther down. Farther down, Jim.
I kept looking and I kept not seeing it.
It better be.
I assume there wasn't some sort of threat from the governor. He just said, I wish Apple wouldn't do this. And, that I assume he thinks that this will play well with his constituents. And I would think that the Congress people that said something, I mean, they're not expecting Apple to listen to them, but they're hoping that some constituents will say, oh, yeah, this guy's, there's a lot of union members, so presumably some of them vote, so they'll be like, yay, this is good. I think that's all this is. It's just posturing for.
Yeah.
Let's see, Jeff.
Okay. So first off, it's no secret that Apple is not a fan of unions. All right. So that makes this store closing very convenient for Apple. Now, that doesn't mean Apple's closing the store because there's a union there. It's just a convenient thing that This happens to be the store that's in a place that's performing poorly enough that it doesn't make fiscal sense for Apple to have a store there anymore. Ultimately, it's bad optics for Apple, and there's just no way around that part of it. As far as government entities calling out Apple on this, all right, if there is any possibility that Apple is acting inappropriately or violating laws or legal contracts by closing the store where these employees are, then yes, do an investigation. That's the appropriate thing to do. But if you are simply doing political theater, then you're wasting everyone's time and ultimately you're wasting taxpayers' money. So have something solid that you feel that you need to investigate and then do it, or let it go.
Yeah. So many of the things, the photos I've seen of, the banners and everything that's been created, Apple do the right thing. It's like, okay, the right thing for who? The right thing under what circumstances? To your point, what is the legally right thing to do? Where do you set dangerous precedents by maybe violating your agreements? And then the next time something like this happens, oh yeah, well you did it for Towson, but you're not going to do it for us? No. Let's see. In the chat room, Barry said the only reason this is getting attention is the fact that it's the first unionized store. And Mark Fuccio, in his usual way of wrapping things up for us, Apple is an easy target for politicians to kick to get press attention. No surprise the Maryland governor is doing this. Getting headlines is easier than solving problems.
Yeah, how about that?
I was just going to add that, the thing to keep in mind, at least that I keep in mind, is that, what? Apple doesn't vote. People vote, but Apple doesn't vote. So that's why they make it an easy target. You can go ahead and say anything you want about any corporation. We'll talk about Apple right now. And that's the position that people are going to take, because it's the big evil corporation versus and how they're doing this terrible thing to their employees. I agree that the Maryland governor did this. It's the 60s, 70s version of clickbait.
Yeah. So let us know how you feel, folks, if you agree or don't agree. And then we'll tell you why we're right. So the next one, this I thought was just interesting, and I wanted to see if this applies to anybody here in the panel or anybody in the chat room. DuckDuckGo installs jumped 18% after Google killed the blue links. On Apple devices, the spike hit 70%. Now, this is reported by the Next Web, and so take it for what it is, and that not a shot at the Next Web, just, but I don't care what exactly the numbers are. I'm just really surprised that the DuckDuckGo installs jumped that much as opposed to some of the other alternatives.
Well,
did anybody
know
here
what
switch?
DuckDuckGo is? So it makes sense that you'd see a spike in installs because it's been around long enough that people know what it is.
Okay, I'll buy that. Did anybody here switch to DuckDuckGo?
No, I was using it before.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo as a search engine is not up to the standard for what I need, which is not to say it's bad. It just doesn't meet the needs that I have. And so I've been trying to figure out what my primary search engine needs to be going forward. And so I've been finally seriously experimenting with multiple search engines to see what does work best. But I can tell you, when Google changed to this new format, it became actually useless to me. And the likelihood that the results that it gives me, it's top. The first thing it tells me in its AI stuff, in many cases, is patently wrong, or it assumes I'm actually searching for something else and then tells me, oh, you're really searching for this thing or this person, and gives me information about that, and does not actually give me what I was looking for or even asking for. So at this point, Google as a search tool is pretty much dead for me.
And don't forget, you got all those great sponsored ads too that are right up there at the top.
Well, they're kind of off to the side. I guess they're down below some too, but yet you have to go through Google AI results before you get to ads, and and actual links are kind of off to the side now. But yeah, don't forget about all the ads that are clearly what you're really looking for.
Yeah. Barry in the chat room said I had DuckDuckGo installed on my devices already and use it as my default search engine in Safari. So Barry was an early adopter.
I have the browser installed and don't use it that frequently, but in a pinch, sometimes I want to see what kind of results it has just to experiment. But yeah, they do have their own dedicated browser too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use the browser for testing stuff like a clean environment, if you will.
Right.
Jeff, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I have multiple browsers installed and I have pretty much a unique use case for each one. Because honestly, it helps me keep bookmarks organized. It helps me keep things categorized a little bit differently. So that's just, my thing. I don't know if anybody else is a regular multiple browser user or not. So Meta, guess what? Meta is building an AI pendant. It also plans a business subscription called Wearables for Work.
Yay!
I don't even know what to say. I mean, the whole pendant thing, that seems to be becoming a thing. Plaud, I know, Marty, as I recall, you are a Plaud user, but I don't remember if you had the pendant or the wrist.
Oh, come on. I had both.
I should, excuse me, I'm sorry. I should have.
Different colors.
I should have known.
Yeah, exactly. You should have known.
Yeah, but Plaud has a really specific purpose, which is recording and transcribing. This seems like it's going to be, or attempt to be, a little bit more with all the joys of giving data to Meta.
Yeah. Yeah. I've talked to the Plaud people now, I think 2 years in a row at CES, and I'm always impressed by their product. But they also seem, oh, sorry, Marty, go ahead.
I think they have like a business associates where, particularly in health and in mental health, which is my area, having that stuff data be able to be HIPAA compliant is important. And I think they have that arrangement, which is not true for all transcription devices or software.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that stuff comes with some pretty stiff penalties if it's violated. So
yeah,
the fact that they make those claims and, back them up makes me feel pretty good about them, as opposed to some of the other options out there. So, but there, as usual, and you'd expect it, there's a cost for the device, there's a cost for the service, a subscription. But to Marty's point, HIPAA compliant, that's not bad.